Happy early Thanksgiving to you all, and welcome to kind of an early stream uh, tonight. And we're not going to do any real reading, but more of a refresher, kind of a look back on where we've been and where we're going. So I'm just going to share this on Facebook real quick, and we can go over kind of how this is going to relate to Thanksgiving in just one moment. There we go. So, Thanksgiving. Hopefully, all of you guys are safe and healthy. Hopefully, you all have many things in this past year to be thankful for. I know I have a list of my on my own. Maybe I'll share some of that tonight. We'll see how the conversation goes, or the monologue actually here. But was thinking about this early in the stream because I think this is important to do now because I hope that especially by this time next year maybe there's a lot more audience engagement. There's a chat going on, so there can be an ongoing discussion about how Thanksgiving impacts our lives, how we may use it as a moment of reflection to just again be thankful for what we have. Not thankful in a broad sense, but thankful specifically to God for the things that He's given us. But what I was thinking about this because I was going through where we're at in Genesis right now with Abraham and where we're going to be going forward. Because last night when we were reading earlier, towards the end, Sarah, Abraham's wife, dies. They're both old. Abraham's got one foot in the grave. They haven't really talked about it, but he's looking towards the end. He sets up a wife for his son Isaac, um, and so we're getting ready to move away from Abraham and his time and into Jacob, and from Jacob into his sons. And then we start to get into um, closer to the part of the Bible or part of Genesis really that we're or part of the Bible that's regarding Moses, and that's another volume in and of itself. But what we're going to see, what the problems that I think that a lot of people have around this time of year, if you're having problems, is usually revolving around family, because Thanksgiving is a time normally when you're spending time with family and you're getting together, and it's generally with folks that you haven't seen much of in the past year. You're making time for everybody to get together, and we specifically live in a very politically charged time. Uh, people have their people have their opinions on a wide variety of cultural, political, whatever things, and it seems that we are more openly hostile to people, even our loved ones, when we have disagreements about that. And the stress of the holidays, or just the stress of everybody being together, or whatever. I don't know what it is specifically about it that these times when you're around family where you can be the nastiest to people. And like I said, I hope that's not going on for you. We don't have that going on in my household right now. I certainly have. I certainly have gone through Thanksgivings where the family has been at odds, and it's not a fun thing. It's not a fun thing. But at the same time, this is not a new thing. This wasn't new before social media, before America, before we became as politicized, I guess, as we have, or more in our faces as we have. You can watch older movies or TV shows and see references where the holiday times can oftentimes be very stressful, and um, so this is not a new thing. In fact, and this is why I brought it up, this is actually something that goes on in Genesis where we have family strife and family struggle. Um, Abraham, we can use him as an example. Abraham has issues with his wife. They get along pretty well, but because of his wife's inability to have children, she comes up with the idea for him to sleep with her servant and have a kid through her after marrying her. Important. Um, and and then Sarah has a son, and there is a family dynamic there that is very difficult because eventually um, Abraham sends um, Ishmael and his mom away. He is going to focus on the family of Sarah and Isaac because that is the path God has chosen, and that's just the way it goes on. So it's difficult when you're talking about a family dynamic where the firstborn son actually, who really doesn't ask for any of this to happen, um, and and his mom are cast out, and they are completely out of the picture at that point, as far as Abraham's life is concerned. So you have that. So obviously there is some sort of strife going on at that point. The Bible doesn't really get into it in a very descriptive manner, but it's enough that you can understand there's some jealousy with Ishmael that Isaac's coming along, um, and there's some hard feelings from Sarah to Ishmael and his mom because of, I guess her own feelings of jealousy there, or protectiveness, call it what you will, but you can see that everybody's got a perspective, and I think that's important to remember uh, when we're talking about Thanksgiving and there is conflict. That a lot of people have their own perspective, and some people might have their perspectives and their disagreements with malicious intent. But I think a lot of times it's just people dealing with stress, and unfortunately right now just a desire to get their opinion off their chest and wanting to just talk at folks and want people to listen to them or want to berate folks because they don't agree with them. I don't have a solution for it. I can point to scripture, I guess. I don't say I guess. I know that there's scripture I can point to solve that. But somebody's got to be willing to hear that in their heart. And a lot of times, holidays are a difficult time to get people to listen. This isn't whiskey, by the way. This is tea. But that is that's where we're at really with Abraham. So we've got the family issues of obviously between him fathering Isaac and Ishmael. I mean, and even I'm doing it. I'm naming Isaac ahead of Ishmael and it's not that Ishmael's illegitimate. He married Hagar, his mom, before Ishmael was even conceived. So Isaac's not an illegitimate child. Um, if that stuff even matters to you, it doesn't matter to me in that regard, because a child is a child when they're born, and they don't ask for the circumstances under which they're born, but they are a creation of God, and we are called to love them. And I don't think that um, the circumstances of your birth really mean anything in regards to who you are as a person. Should never define you. Should never define you. And you should never. And if you know somebody about that, don't let it define them. If it's one of your kids, don't let it define them. Because I know there's still some cultural or some cultural taboos concerning children born out of wedlock, or children born out through adultery or um, other issues. But we're called to love people, and there's nothing more appropriate than loving a child. So that's, like I said, this is very difficult in that aspect between Ishmael and Isaac. Now Isaac eventually is put on an altar for sacrifice to God, but it doesn't actually seem like Isaac takes that personally at all, which is good on Isaac, because that could be pretty bad. But then from Isaac we're going to be seeing a couple of sons from Isaac, who are twins actually, Esau and Jacob, and we're going to see that there's some family strife between them, and then some big family strife, and even worse than that, when Jacob has kids, he has a ton, and he has a ton of kids from 4 different moms. 2 of them are his wives, 2 of them are his wives' servants. Spoiler alert, but guess what? The Bible's been around forever, so you've had you've had however long you've needed to read it. So I'm not worried about spoilers in that regard because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about family strife. So you've got 12 sons, 12 sons. So we don't even know how many daughters. We have 12 sons born, and 12 boys in a household. I mean, there's no conflict there, but there's one son in particular who seems to be the favorite, and that's Joseph. And Joseph's one of my favorite people. Joseph's one of my favorite people because he's just an interesting guy to follow around, and he's a righteous man at the same time. So we'll have fun reading from that. But Joseph is on the receiving end of a lot of family strife, and he deals with it in as gracious a way as you can. A little bit of a troll, which I can appreciate. I like seeing people who can play a prank or who can get a reaction out of people, especially folks who have more than that coming their way. But Jacob's one of my favorite guys, and but again, we're talking about multiple generations of family strife in this one line, and we can actually go back from that, and because when we started after our first look back, we were talking about Noah and Noah's kids. He curses one. He curses one and blesses the other two, but this is an ongoing thing. So that's what we've seen. And since I said the look back and the look ahead involved a lot of family strife and a lot of family confrontation, a lot of people not getting along, I think that's a good, for whatever reason, that just seems to be where we're at. This wasn't my plan, but that seems to be where we're at around the holidays. Thanksgiving specifically is tomorrow, and I thought it was a good time to address it now because this is still a stream where it's just basically me giving my thoughts and not necessarily getting any input from anybody else. So it can be a difficult time. So if everything's going great in your family and everybody's getting along, and for the most part everything's hunky dory, there's only a few people throwing fits or slamming doors, then God bless you. I'm glad for it, and cherish that time, because I was thinking about this the other day. How many Thanksgivings do you get with your kids? I mean, how many Thanksgivings do you get with family? I mean, it's when you think about it, it's relatively small numbers, and it's the same thing for Christmas and Easter and New Year's and all those other times where you might be getting together. How many of those times? And we're talking about possibly dozens or less. Count them in the dozens or less. You want to make sure you make that time worthwhile. So especially if everybody's having a good time, cherish those moments. Be thankful to God for them, because there's a lot of folks who don't. There's a lot of folks out there who, and maybe you're one of them, don't have a lot of family or don't get along with their family, been ostracized from their family for whatever reason, and feel lost. And that kind of stress is difficult for us to just maintain in a time where we feel like the expectation is we should be together with folks. And I know a couple of folks, like I said, my mom included, who have lost very close loved ones. And if this is a Thanksgiving where you are dealing with the recent loss of a loved one, God bless you too, because like I said, you count the amount of times you have. If you count the amount of times you get to share a specific holiday with a loved one, and then they're not there anymore, you feel like you didn't get enough, and that is a difficult thing to reconcile in your head, especially when you're experiencing it. I'm sorry for you, and I hope that you were able to make new memories with existing friends and family, and maybe some new friends and family to kind of fill that void. Nobody's ever going to replace a loved one in your life, but there's always, when one person leaves your life, especially through death, there's an opportunity there for somebody to fill that missing piece in their own way, and hopefully, for it hopefully when you're gone, you're leaving that a bit of emptiness for somebody else to be held, or for many people, you're leaving an emptiness behind because you made that big of an impact. And be happy. I guess it's another thing. Be happy if this is the first year without a close loved one, and you're dealing with it. Be thankful that you had somebody so close to you that they had the impact that they did with you, that you feel that way. Um, if you didn't have the feelings that you feel now because of that, um, that means you never got to enjoy any time with that person. Um, and like I said, folks who are dealing with stress, they're alone and fighting with each other, and dealing with family conflict, whether it's with your kids or your parents or your brothers or sisters or aunts and uncles or grandparents, and everybody's got their opinion and everybody's throwing it back and forth, or nobody's talking because somebody doesn't approve of what somebody else did or what somebody else said. If it feels like it's getting too much for you, don't feel like you need to smile and grin and bear it. Walk away for a little bit. Um, let your head cool off, especially if you're thinking about blowing up at somebody. Let your head cool off and think about what the correct thing to be would be. Um, think about what the correct biblical thing it would be. And I know that if you're a new Christian, or if you're just feeling Christianity out, then you might not know or might not have any idea what the right response would be. Hell, I have problems finding out realizing what the right Christian thing would be to do, or what God wants me to do, and I've been one all my life. So, don't think of it like you're failing. Um, do just make your best effort at doing it. Make your best guess at what you should do. It's probably not punch somebody in the face. It's probably not curse somebody out. It's probably not throwing food at somebody. I've seen all this happen before, by the way. Um, it's probably not any of those things. So try to take a gentler, smarter, more diplomatic approach to things. But make an approach that's full of love, because we do things that tick God off all the time. God's constantly not happy with what we've said or what we've done or how we've acted in some way. But, you're not seeing the turkey levitate in the middle of dinner and then get slammed into a wall. If you have, repent for whatever you've done. But all likelihood, you haven't done anything like that. God's not, slamming doors on you and everything. He's not. Take that approach, and if you're being, if somebody's being so toxic around you that it's affecting you personally to the point where you are losing your way, walk away from it. Walk away from it. Leave. Do whatever you need to do, because it's not worth you getting put in a place where you are losing yourself. And perhaps it's easier to come back from an instance where you just leave and walk out than it would be to create a scene where nobody gets together anymore. And like I said, I remember that. I've had a lot of Thanksgivings that I've seen where I've been around aunts, uncles, cousins, and I've been to some Thanksgivings where everybody's joyful. I've been to some where they're not, and it's not a great thing, but it's not the worst thing in the world either. Um, don't let it. Also, last thing, don't drink and drive if you're thinking about doing it. If you're drinking at the place, whoever you're dealing with, you can Uber home wherever you're at, or Uber to wherever you're staying. That's not an excuse, but if you're drinking, if you're imbibing, stay where you're at. Stay where you're at, or get somebody else to take you home. Don't be out there. The
Uh, I recently heard of an incident where during the last holiday where somebody was drunk in the middle of the morning in middle of the morning, um, and head on collided uh, with a truck, and luckily everybody was okay. But don't ever be that guy. Don't ever be that guy, and I hope that you're never on the other side of it. I'm rambling now. I'm rambling now, so that means that it's probably a good time to end this stream, especially since um, there's really not much left to say. But how about this? I'll talk about some of the things that I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for this hat. You've seen me wear it in the last few episodes. My wife made this hat for me, and she gave it to me as an early Christmas present. She's been very supportive. Let me straighten that up. She's been very supportive of what I'm doing, and a supportive spouse is invaluable. You can't put a value on a spouse that's going to support you in something you're doing, especially when it's something like this where you're putting yourself out there. And I just want to say, so I'll say this on here on the internet in front of everybody. Thank you, my lovely wife, for not supporting me and getting me this hat. I'm going to wear it for whatever, however long I need to wear it. But I'm thankful for this stream. I've had a lot of folks. Join the Facebook page. I think I know every single one of them. But they're for the folks, those of you out there who are sharing and liking my posts. Thank you. I appreciate it. I encourage you, if you're not already, to get on YouTube and actually go on to the app, subscribe to my channel, and hit a notification bell. That way, you get a notification whether I'm streaming or not. This has been pretty cool. I'm thankful that it seems like I am enjoying what I'm doing. So I'm thankful that I'm enjoying this endeavor, and I'm thankful for a positive outlook on what this stream is going to do. I've done it for discipleship, and thankful for it. So hopefully next Thanksgiving, like I said, hopefully I'll be more than 9 subscribers. Hopefully I've got a chat of at least a couple of folks dropping in and giving some tidbits about how Thanksgiving affects their or how Christianity is affected, or how their Christianity influences what their holidays, specifically Thanksgiving. But that's my hope. But whether it is or isn't, I plan on being here for the duration. I know we're not going to be done with the Bible by then. We got a long way to go on that in that sense. But let's be excited for what's lying ahead that we're about to go review, which is, like I said, Isaac into Jacob into Joseph into Moses. It's going to be a lot of good times, and let's be thankful for Abraham. We talked about this last night. Let's be thankful for Abraham for doing the right thing, for making a hard choice, the hardest, what I can't imagine, the hardest choice to do is put something that is invaluable to you on the altar in front of God and be willing to sacrifice it because He told you to specifically. Because I can't put a price on my son. I can't put a price on my daughter. I can't. And it would absolutely break my heart. But Abraham did, and he was ready to do it. And God, that was all the willingness to do it, and going through the motions, and the fact that he didn't know that he wasn't going to have to do it was all God needed to really see that mankind is willing to listen to him. Not all of us. I don't know. I feel like, in review, I could do what Abraham did, but man, I'd have to have a lot of alcohol in me to work up the courage to do that, to get and to just to get through that point, that emotional mess that I would be in. But God's bigger than us. God's bigger than us. God's bigger than our kids. God's bigger than our parents and brothers and spouses. He's bigger than that. And here's the thing. Here's my closing thought for Thanksgiving. God's bigger than ideology. God's bigger than your politics. He's way bigger than that. So whatever you might think and whatever you might disagree with somebody, if it's keeping you from loving them, consider backing up and rethinking your how devoted you are to something that is beneath God. So, hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for every one of you, those who are watching now and those who are going to be watching in the future. Love you all very much. Be safe and be safe.